episode 38 of Destination Talk. I'm John Paz.
And I am Harry, and we are coming to you once again from Chop Studios located at 750 Route 34 in Matawan, New Jersey. And today we are pleased to be joined by Jacari Carter, a college football standout at three different schools, Merrimack, Georgia State, and Albany. Did I get those right?
Yep.
Okay. I'm glad my memory's still with me. Got those three. And we'll be diving into Jacari's playing days, football, and his entrepreneurial side with his training business. So, Jacari, thank you so much for coming into the studio and being a part of what we're doing here. How's everything going today?
Everything is good. I appreciate you guys for having me.
No, thank you. And a huge shout out to episode 35 guest Aldo Santiago, because that's how we got connected. And I'll just share a real quick story. I think it was like 6 something in the morning when he reached out to me. He goes, hey, I got a guest for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, just feel free to connect us. And I think he texted you right after that.
Yeah.
And then next thing I know, we were on a text thread and we were talking.
Yeah,
so,
I think by 8 o'clock we were on a text thread.
By 8 o'clock we were locking this in.
Yeah.
So we do appreciate you coming by. So, Jacari, for those who don't know about you, can you give us a little bit of background, where you're from, how, why football, and then kind of what you're doing a little bit right now?
Yeah, I'm from Sayreville, New Jersey. My father is from Roselle, New Jersey. My mother is from Jersey City, New Jersey. We spent about 5 years in Roselle, New Jersey with my older brother. My older brother was playing football in Roselle, New Jersey, and I would probably say that was my inspiration to try to be like my older brother. In the game of football, seeing my mother drop him off to practice day in and day out, and I'm like, well, I want to have that coach, or I want to, play this sport like how he's playing this sport. And then from there, we moved to Sayreville, New Jersey when I was 5, or maybe 4, turning 5, and I was able to play football at 5, turning 6, one of those ages. And then for the rest of my life, it was in Sayreville, New Jersey.
I bet.
So you were a 4-year letter winner, right, in high school.
Yeah.
How did it feel playing both sides of the ball? How did that shape you into the player you are today?
Yeah, it builds a certain type of toughness. It builds a certain type of toughness because when in college you play one side of the ball, and if you play 2 sides of the ball in high school, that endurance that you have in college is nothing, because I'm on the field for one side. Now it's like it's time to go get it no matter what. So in high school, playing both sides of the ball is definitely a pretty special feeling. I'm sorry, can you repeat that a little bit again? Can you repeat that question?
Yeah. So you were a 4-year letter winner, correct? How did that, playing both sides of the ball, really shape you into the player you are today?
Yeah, I would say it left me with endless amount of experience and endless amount of knowledge to be able to give it back to kids today. So when you're playing the defense side of the ball in high school or for your entire life, it helped me out with abilities on the offense side of the ball. Especially, you may see like a nickel going to blitz, and when you see a nickel going to blitz, now the safety's coming down and you got one-on-one coverage. So now, from playing receiver for 4 years in college, it allowed you to know what's about to happen before it happens. So the game is from 80% mental and 20% physical. So it allowed me to play much faster with being a 4-year letterman, playing both sides of the ball.
State champion in high school, is that correct?
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Can you talk us through that year?
Yeah, so 2-time state champion.
Don't want to take any away from you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I definitely, looking back at these, experiences and these accomplishments, you appreciate them now that you're done with them.
Right.
So that first one was sophomore year. We had a pretty, complete team, really good quarterback, really good defense, just savvy, gritty. That year started off a little rocky for me. I would say all my high school years started off a little bit rocky for me. I started off that season with a sprained ankle. I sprained it in camp time during August. So, me being me, I wasn't trying to miss anything. So our first game I was playing, I had on an ankle brace. I just wasn't really able to move how I wanted to move. Second game, third game, wound up being the same thing. I want to say we got to, Edison. And my brother and my father used to always challenge me a ton. I want to say I had a bad game versus New Brunswick. I came up and I missed the tackle, and I still had a decent game, but I didn't have the game that I wanted to have. But they were on me so much that it made me be like, I don't want to ever have an average game like this again. So that week going into Edison, I studied Edison's entire playbook. So, not saying that I knew every single thing, but I had a good enough awareness. If they was lined up in this formation, this is most likely it was going to be ran. So long story short, going into that game, what really took my career off that state championship year is this receiver from Edison caught a ball on the opposite side of the field, and me being a sophomore, I tracked the kid down. I want to say we were down by a score, but it was like only 6 points. So if we would have got that extra point, we would have won the game. So I tracked him down, long story short, I thought I poked the ball out, but I just tracked him down and swiped him by the ankle. Is God being on my side, the kid threw it out and it fell in the back of the end zone, so it was a touchback. And then we got the ball, went down and scored. And then I want to say we won the game by 1 point or maybe a touchdown, one or the other.
A win's a win.
A win is a win. A win is a win. But that really took off my career, and a lot of people don't understand what may take your career off has nothing to do with talent sometimes. It has everything to do with your effort, attitude, effort, and how you're willing to go through adversity. So that's really what took my career off. And then talking a little bit more about that state championship year, I want to say later on in the season, I didn't have no touchdowns. And then, it wound up breaking off on my birthday where I had 3 touchdowns for over 100 yards receiving. And then later on, we played Middletown South. And anybody that knows Middletown South, in that 2000s era to I want to say 2019, Middletown South was the real deal.
They were a good team.
Yeah, real deal. Obviously, from where No Sean Marino is from, that played at Georgia. So that was a big deal for me, and that was my biggest game. I want to say I went over 200 yards for receiving and had 2 touchdowns, and that was just a great team win for us. But reflecting back off, that was the semifinal game to go to the state championship. So being a sophomore, I want to say a 15, 16-year-old, being able to make an impact on, a team like that versus a top team, and then go to the state championship and beat Middletown North at Rutgers, it was a dream come true, and all that allowed me to do was just steamroll into my future.
You were also captain your senior year.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about that? What did you learn from that experience, being, leading your teammates?
Yeah, being a captain, that role definitely meant a lot to me. I wanted to be a captain my junior year. I want to say I definitely was deserving of that role my junior year. I put a lot of work in to make that happen, and when I wasn't named captain, I remember I had tears that night. And for, maybe now in this generation, things like that don't mean as much to kids, but something like that meant a lot to me. Right. Being able to lead, being able to show a team how it's done and be able to say, yo, as long as I'm on this team, we're winning every single game that we come across, or we're going to get the job done. So, maybe my coach later on that junior year, he called me, mid-season. He was like, Jacari, I just want to apologize. He was like, I should have named you captain. But sometimes, he didn't say this verbatim, but, sometimes when you're dealing with the politics, you may have seniors, you may have people that's on a touchdown club, whatever, you got to get there. You just got to do certain things. And I appreciate
all the ugly stuff that's behind the scenes.
Yeah, yep. And I just appreciated the acknowledgement. I appreciate that acknowledgement because that went a long way for me. And, it also allowed me to finish off that season strong. So for my senior year being captain, it was something that I was like, all right, well, is it now I'm a captain because I'm a senior or because, I truly put in this work and I earned it? And so for me, honestly, in that senior year, it was more like, all right, well, I do got to go to school too. So as much as I, love this captain role, I also have to, do it just because I want our team to win, not just because I want to be that named captain, So it meant a lot to me because not only just the name, but knowing that if we were going to go make the state championship run and go, go win, it was just going to become from me being a leader, not just the name captain,
So something we really talk about on this podcast is recruiting. So if we kind of get into how your recruiting process looked like once you went to college?
Recruiting was difficult, not in a sense of recruiting me wasn't. I'm sorry, let me put it like this. Me getting recruited wasn't the hard part. I was hearing just from about every school on the East Coast, from the ACC, from the Big Ten, and some FCS schools, the offering process was hard because a lot of people don't realize when you go to a school and you being undersized, you may go to a camp and then they're automatically writing you off because they see your size, they bring you out. So a lot of people get full where they be like, oh, come to our camp, we inviting you to camp. And that's just a setup to be like, all right, now we know we're going to cross this kid off the board because he may not run the fastest 40 time at our camp and he's not the biggest. I remember I was on the verge of getting an offer from Temple going into my senior year. They really liked me. The head coach really liked me. And that's one thing. If a head coach knows about you and he follows you and DMs you, that is really, really serious. So I went down there, I had a private workout with Temple and dealing with the politics of things. When I went down there and they invited me down for a private workout, now they act like they didn't know me. So I had to bust my way in to get that private workout. I see, in the camp, they have a station over here, station over here, station over here, station over here. Station over here may be the kids that, all right, we just money grabbing them. Money grab, money grab, money grab. Then the center circle is the kids that they probably going to offer. So I was looking, I'm like, oh, wait, I'm going over to that center circle. So started running routes over to the center circle. Now they act like they knew me again and everything. It's like, hey, here's this blue wristband. Meet us in the weight room, at a certain time. So long story short, met them in the weight room. They took us on a private bus while that camp was still going on to their indoor. Had a really good, I would say, I had dudes that was there that day like, yo, you were the best receiver here, hands down. Didn't get that offer. Why? Because probably my size or after, actually, long story short, he asked me, he was like, what was your 40 time today? I was like, you want to know my 40 time is raining outside, you know? So what does that have to do with how good of a football player I was? So recruiting was difficult in that standpoint. However, I did receive my first 2 offers. I received my first one from Howard University in I want to say 2016, 2017, going into my junior year, and Morgan State University. And then the coaching staff at Howard left. So it was, kind of hard for me to go there, and Morgan State coach staff left. However, I didn't want to go to HBCU. That wasn't just my ideal move at the time. I was big lights, Rutgers, Ohio State, Pitt. That was where my mind frame was at. So I didn't have any offers coming out of high school because those all offers no longer stood when those coaching staffs left. So I had to go to prep school after high school.
So from prep school, Merrimack was where you went first?
Yes.
So can you talk us through that process? So I know I mentioned in the open you played for 3 different schools.
Yeah.
So whatever you feel open to sharing, can you take us through that process of what those 3 schools looked like for you?
Yeah. So that process, I had to go to a prep school named East Coast Prep up in Western Massachusetts, and I was willing to do anything just to get a scholarship that I felt happy about and was willing to go to. So I went to East Coast Prep, a school where they take your phones away for 3 months. You got to shave. You stay in cabins in the woods, but it was a sacrifice that a lot of 18-year-olds or 17-year-olds may not be ready for. But I knew I was ready to do anything that I had to do to get the scholarship offer that I wanted. So within 3 weeks of being there, I received my first offer from Merrimack College, and a lot of the recruitment throughout my whole process I did myself, marketing myself, being on Twitter, just taking things to the next level so that people know the name Jacari Carter.
Right.
So Merrimack was my first offer. 3 weeks of being there, I want to say I had a big game versus Western New England because at the prep school you play like the Division III's JV school. So Merrimack came about, and then from there, I waited like 2 weeks, and I committed on my birthday, and I said deuces to my prep school. I'm sorry I didn't finish out that season, but I had the school that I want. The things, everything was accomplished, and the biggest thing for me is I never wanted my mom to come out of pocket for school.
Right.
So I remember it was times where I was at East Coast Prep in a cabin, like my head down, like, man, like I don't got no offer. Like, should I just go to Division II? Should I just settle? Maybe my mom will only have to pay for a partial scholarship. You just think it's so small, but I'm so glad that I was thinking so big at the same time because those dreams scared me in that moment. And if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough.
So you played receiver and you also play return specialist as well, right? How do you view yourself? How do you view your identity as an athlete? What were your strengths and what were some of the parts of the game that were hardest to work on to improve?
I would say let's start off with the hardest to work on was my speed. I would say I wasn't gifted with lights out speed. Maybe a average person just seeing me run, they'd be like, oh man, you're super fast. But a scout that may have seen Tyreek Hill run before, now you're not fast to that to that scout. So so those were my things that was hardest to work on. I would say shout out to Mason Robinson, a New Jersey legend. That helped me blaze my path. When it comes to speed, I learned probably everything I know from speed from him. And everything that I got from him was all that mattered when it came to game time.
Right.
I may not clock fast, but I'll tell you this. When I run my routes, I was able to run away from guys because of obviously what I was gifted with, but what he was able to give me as well. So speed was the hardest thing to work on, just that breakaway. That was something that people always probably knocked me for. However, the attributes that really made me was that quickness, being able to stop to go. Catching me one-on-one was very hard to do. And then my ability to create separation, especially like on a third down and, a third down and a fourth down. All right, we get the ball to him or just throw the ball in his vicinity. He's going to make something happen. And then also just being, QB friendly. Not you running a route and the quarterback throws maybe a subpar ball. Instead of, fading away from a ball, I'm going to the ball to make, to help him out. So I believe there's no such thing as a is a bad ball. But I would say the quickness part of things, the stop to go and create separation, is what made my game separate from other people.
That'd make you a good return specialist too,
Yes,
right? Being
yeah,
able to be quick off the ball, right? Yeah.
What made me a great return specialist is playing baseball. So I was a 3-sport athlete coming up. I played center fielder. So being a center fielder, you got to go. You in the middle. You got to track things. So being a punt returner, a lot of people don't want a punt return because they feel pressure coming while you're going to track the ball. And the biggest thing is they can't hit you if you fair catch. So, the biggest thing my father always used to tell me when it came to punt return is catch the ball first. And I watched my older brother punt return. So with me playing baseball, that gave me an advantage to already know how to track the ball in the sky. And then catching the ball first, catch the ball first, then you make the first man miss, then everything, the sea starts opening up. Starts opening up, and if you got some people that's willing to give you a block or two, I always tell my guy, like, just give me a block or two, and then I'll make the rest happen from there. So that's what made me a great return specialist.
I hope there's no push in the back, which seems to be on every kickoff return that ruins everything. Especially if you're a Giants fan.
That's the only hope. Yep.
So you mentioned before being undersized, and I don't want to compare, but I played baseball, and I'm 5'9", and because and I was a first baseman and a pitcher, so since I wasn't 6'3", 6'4", and left-handed, so I understood what that was like. How did you overcome that? It sounds like it motivated you, but you obviously had to work on those intricacies to really get into the details of your game. So can you talk a little bit about that, how you overcame that?
Finding as much inspiration as possible from those before you that have done it, that were undersized. So somebody that was inspiring to me was Greg Dortch. You could if you look up the name Greg Dortch, he plays for the Arizona Cardinals to this day.
Right.
There's not a lot of people that you could find in New Jersey that's undersized that went far. Like, if you just look, I may have looked at an undersized dude, but then he may be taking a visit to a Division I college, but didn't get no offer. Or I may be looking at somebody else, but they're 6 foot and they were able to get by because they're 6 foot and they run a little fast. So that could have been my inspiration. Only person I could find as my inspiration was Greg Dortch, that made it from the state that he was from Virginia. So being undersized, you have to do so many details right. Like, you can't leave no detail.
Right.
You can't leave no detail out. So that was the biggest thing for me, like, hustling, being first in every sprint, being detailed in my route running, catching every football, being the smartest person on the field. And then obviously your attitude and effort. It's almost like you just have to be like a perfect, like something like like something perfect. So that way, they couldn't take something to write you off, because they're always looking for something to write you off. Oh yeah, he's quick. He's quick. He catch the ball, but he's fast. He don't got no breakaway. What the breakaway got to do with me getting a first down when it's one-on-one, when somebody's guarding me, when the moment is hot. So being undersized, that was definitely a difficult time, but the inspiration allowed me to continue to move forward and find my way and get my name to where it needed to be.
Aldo brought up in our episode having a football IQ. And, and obviously we were talking before we came in the studio about, how he's a big kid, obviously. But, it doesn't matter how big or strong or how fast you are if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing on the football field. And then across all sports. We're just talking about football because that's the two sports that you guys played. But if you don't have that football intelligence, this is a conversation we're probably going to have in the future because, when we're going to dive into what you're doing currently. But I think those 40s and those vertical jumps and all that stuff is just to just check people off, to say this is why you did not get what you thought you should have had. And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that when we get to that point. But they can't measure the person's heart. And I think we're all these coaches and scouts are looking for the perfect person. Yeah. But I don't think the perfect person exists.
No.
And how many guys like yourself were overlooked because they didn't have the drive and the determination that you had to continue going.
Yeah. You talk about that heart. Like, that heart has nothing to do with a 40 time.
No.
And that 40 time has nothing to do with the moment. A lot of dudes that can run a fast 40, they're not ready for the moment. They're not ready when that ball is circling and them white stripes is circling in the air to catch that ball when the game is on the line. A lot of them dudes that run a fast 40 may not want the ball when the pressure is hot on fourth down and be like, yo, throw me the ball because I know I'm going to get open. So it's just so funny how we measure those things. I'm glad you said it because it makes it easier for a scout to, all right, we're going to check him off.
Right.
That way we don't got to pay him this $1 million and we could go with the dude from LSU that we knew, was going to be the guy. It's unfortunate, but that's how life goes. It's just about how long are you willing to go through adversity to continue to prove why you are who you are. But it got so, to a point in my career where it wasn't about proving it to nobody else. It's about proving to myself that I could be who I wanted to be.
No, I agree, and it just doesn't matter because if you can't comprehend offensive and defensive schemes, I don't care how fast, how big, how great you look in the uniform, it doesn't matter.
Even coaching. So with coaching, you see from an angle, coaches do not want to deal with no dummy. And just because you don't know what you're doing, that doesn't mean you're a dummy.
Right.
But if you don't know what you're doing, we can't do nothing with you.
Right.
There's nothing that we could do. Like, because if you don't know what you're doing, there's going to be somebody else that's going to know what you're doing. I'll put it like this. A coach's job, he's supposed to prepare you to have the best game plan as possible. And if you can't follow his game plan, you're not going to win. That doesn't mean that coach is not a good coach. But if you can't buy into what he's planning to do while he's playing checkers and wants you to move this way and move that way, then you're no good for him.
Right.
And they're going to find somebody else because it's no longer going to come a time where they could be like, yo, here's the ball, run outside. The fast stuff, the big stuff, the strong stuff, it doesn't matter when it comes to a certain point where everybody's big, strong, and fast. What are the intangibles that's going to separate you from a kid that's also big, strong, and fast? You can find any person that's big, strong, and fast, but can you find somebody that's going to do all the little things right, that's quick, that's twitch, that's gonna deliver when the moment is hot, and that has that heart, like you said.
Right.
You ain't gonna find them.
Yeah, we've had this conversation before. Everyone's good in college.
Yeah,
everybody's good.
Well, everyone's good in high school.
Yeah, high school.
Yeah,
high school.
I mean, everyone's
High school.
great in high school.
Not everybody's good in college, though.
Right.
Not everybody. It's hard. College is hard. College is hard.
Everyone's good in. They're all stars in Pop Warner. They're great in high school. But then and we've talked about this, and I don't know if you share this stat with your athletes that you train, but out of all the kids that go to that are high school athletes, only 7% go on to college. Now think about how many colleges, but how many colleges there are out there.
Yeah.
And and one of the things about doing this podcast now that with the number of episodes we're up to, I never knew all these schools existed because again, I'm dating myself, but the internet and all these tools that are at our fingertips today didn't exist when I was going through recruiting process. So I didn't know that there were all these hundreds and hundreds of colleges. You only knew what you heard.
Yeah.
So and you didn't know that.
It's funny you talk about all the schools that there are now. If you break this down to another level, think about how many kids there are out there.
There's even more.
There's 1 million kids out there, and there's let's say only 100,000 schools. 100,000 of them schools, or let's say 50,000 of them schools.
Right.
That's probably how much there are. 50,000 schools. About 25,000 of those schools only have 24 scholarships.
Right.
Because
how many of those schools don't have a full allotment of sports as well?
Yeah. And if let's say there's only 500 schools in the nation that are fully athletic scholarship schools. That means they probably only have 24 scholarships. And now with the transfer portal, they're giving 17 of those scholarships to kids that are already in college.
Right.
So now that's leaving about, you do the math, 7 to 6 scholarships left for high school kids. So now you have to be good in high school in order to go to college. Yeah. You have to.
But you could be great in high school and still not get to that division. I think there's a whole nother level that you have to be at.
Yeah.
And it's almost, listen, he wrestled at Rutgers. And I have said, hands down, probably the best conference in all of the country for Big Ten wrestling, right? And I watched him for 5 years compete and some of these monsters that he went up against. But now you conversely go over to football and you see what's going on. And then, let's bring 4 teams in from the West Coast because we're going to expand. And,
with the Pac-12.
And bringing these teams in.
Yeah.
I just don't know if the kids today and the parents, for that matter, have a real understanding of what it truly takes. Because to be a Division I athlete, I don't care if it's... Listen, we had Coach Ford on from Idaho. They're FCS. They're the Big Sky Conference, one of the best FCS conferences in the country.
Yeah.
I don't think they understand what it takes to play at that level.
Yeah.
and it's a commitment that you have to be willing to make and a sacrifice pretty much from day one when you walk through the doors of your high school. If that's your intention.
Now you know how they used to say junior year is your most important year.
It's your freshman year
is your most important
It's
year
your freshman year because the eyes are on you right from go.
Yep,
and that's the most important. And I don't think people understand that.
Yeah.
And well, we can get into the training side of it, but that's a whole other thing.
I think switching gears a little bit. Let's talk about your merch a little bit.
Yeah.
See what you're wearing.
Yeah. So man, this is a Prolific Performance. You know, obviously this means a lot to me. You know, the brand. I remember I was door dashing probably about like 4 years ago, back in 2021, 2020, for about $3 an order, and then you get your tips that may be like $8. So, you know, I wasn't wearing none of this. So now the fact that I'm able to every single day throw on my own brand, like I'm talking about every single day. Like I could throw on a camo hat that's pink. I could throw on a camo hoodie that's, you know, with the double P. I could throw on so many things. That's my brand. I wear this every single day. So it's pretty special to me because, you know, it's a brand that I started back in 2020. And it can't be done with people that's not gonna, you know, without the people that's supporting you. People that's supporting you, because let's say they don't gotta give you $100, but it also fuels your mind to be like, wait, no, I have people that actually believe in this. Let me do more.
Right.
Let me go to the next mile.
You started this while you were playing.
Yeah.
So that's unique. So let's talk a little bit about that. How'd that come about?
Yeah, I'm gonna quickly sum it up. So in 2020, that was a COVID year where I was, you know, in college football. I had 2 sprained ankles. I was behind a 3-year starter at Merrimack College, and I didn't think that 3-year starter was better than me. All respect to him, but I didn't think he was better than me. So, you know, that year, I when we had our spring COVID season, those games didn't count. So we played like 3 games, but they didn't count. Right. So I knew that summer, I knew I was this close to possibly, you know, being better than him or taking his spot or being better than him in their eyes.
Right.
You know, I was like, oh, this offseason is about to be the best offseason of my life. I'm about to be the best in the world. I'm about to be the best in the world. I'm about to be All-American, and then I'm just going, you know, I'm gonna put my name on the map. I wasn't thinking about taking his spot. I was just thinking about being the best in the world.
Right.
So I was reaching for the stars, and if anything, I would have landed on a cloud. God willing that, you know, in that 2020 season, with me having the best offseason in my life, somebody was like, you should make this a brand. I was like, maybe you're right, because I'm always at the field, and then when I'm at the field, I always have people joining me. So that allowed, you know, people to come under the wing, and then I was like, man, I'm gonna make this a brand. So in 2000, I want to say in 2000, in that 2020, in that wintertime 2020, I started a brand named Prolific Performance, and didn't look back. I want to say I had my first client in that 2021 phase, and then, you know, didn't look back. So while I was playing and said I was going to be the best in the world, that's when my brand started taking off, because in that 2020 season, coming around when I started Prolific, I became an All-American. So it was like once I started the brand, I picked up All-American, and then I ran with the brand because now I had something to stand on. Because, I was a high school athlete and saying, oh, yeah, I got a business, I'm about to train athletes. But sometimes you got to jump into that water and swim with the sharks and discover how you're going to make it out. Right. So that's what it was for me. I was, you know, I may not be as knowledgeable as I am today, but I was swimming with the sharks, picked up that resume, and then ran with the resume.
Well, if you don't start, you don't know where it's going to go.
You know where it's going to go. Yeah, you know where it's going to go.
That's the thing, too. So one of the things that we ask, especially current and or former athletes, you know, how did you balance being an athlete, a student, in your case, uniquely, a business owner?
Yeah.
How were you able to put those all in their compartments?
Respectfully, it all depends what your dream was. So I knew when it came to a certain point with Prolific, I knew that money was going to be good for me in my future. I knew I had the longevity in that. So honestly, you know, this is not advice for let's say if you're a student athlete, but if you're somebody that's just trying to make it, you got what's unusual to somebody else, you can't worry about that. You got to worry about what's usual to you. So the education truly went on the back burner. Like, as long as I did what I had to do in the classroom, that's all that mattered.
Right.
What came first was football. That was number one, because I had a dream of making it to the NFL, and everybody does not go.
Right.
So if everybody does not go, you mean to tell me my education in college comes first? No, it can't. It had to be just enough. But also, you can't slack in little details, because if you slack in little details, it's going to show up on third down. So if you miss that assignment in class and you don't even intend to make it up, oh, trust me, it's going to show up on third down. God got a way of humbling you and making sure that you keep all these details right, as long as if you want to make it. So I'm not gonna lie, football came first, the business came second, and then education came third. Especially, it started to really pour out when I started to get older and the business started picking up. Now I wasn't able to just get these assignments done because this business is really taking off, and I had to make a choice. It's either the business or education. And I'm so glad because when I was right around to be done with, school, that's exactly when the business finally took off, where it was like, yo, I can't even do the education part no more. So I was just able to get my, just able to graduate and then take off with Prolific. But it's so funny because now you get a piece of paper and I'm not going to use it for, at least, let's be real. I'm not going to use it. If anybody knows what's going on with Prolific, I ain't going to use that piece of paper. But now when you're talking to parents, it's like, wait, hold up. I got my college degree.
Right.
I'm qualified. Maybe the age, but I'm qualified. But that's something I don't even bring up. I just bring up, maybe the resume because it's like I'm at a spot where your kids are trying to get to.
Right.
So only thing that I want to do is just get them there. I also want to win, but I want to get them there. The winning is not going to come if they're not in these little details because, like I said, a coach has a plan. If this kid is not going to follow the plan, now my plan looks like a disaster. So I need these kids to follow the plan first. They have to be sharp in these details first, and then the winning is going to come, and then everybody's going to look like a genius, and then this whole thing takes off.
Mm-hmm. What does the future look like for Jacari?
I would say, that's a great question. I would say the game of football is no longer about football. So I'm not chasing $1 million contract. I'm not chasing a contract from an NFL team. Somebody hit me up the other day. It was like, yo, I was watching Dallas offense. George Pickens looks good. CD Lamb ain't looking too hot, but they don't got nobody on third down. I'm like, well, I don't know if it's going to be me because I'm over here with Prolific, But trying to prove yourself in so many other people's eyes, it ain't even about that no more. It's about, I done proved everything to myself. I don't know how many dudes from New Jersey that's my size that went on and really, even in general, how many receivers in this era that you could just sit out here and name and be like, yo, that receiver from New Jersey is, it went on and really did it. If we really think, you think about the greats, obviously you got Victor Cruz, Mohamed Sanu, probably the greatest. Then other than that, I stopped from there. Obviously you got Kenny Britt, you got Leonte Carril. But those are the big fish. Like I didn't go to no big school. I had to make my way to the big school. So it's no knock to anybody right now that's probably doing their thing, but there's also levels to it. And there's levels to it as far as like not everybody from Jersey goes on and really puts their name on. So the future for me, I can't really say. I would just say I know it's Prolific. I know Prolific is number one. I know Prolific is number one because, that's going to change my life, my family's life. And then not only that, I just instead of myself just going to the league, I'm gonna have 50 kids go to the league, and that's pretty more special than anything because the league or whatever is gonna have an expiration date, whether it's 10 years or 20. I don't care. It's gonna have an expiration date. So why in that 20-year or 10-year span I could get a kid to make it or 50 kids?
Are you still playing?
So I would say I'm still fresh. I'm definitely still fresh. I definitely could go out there and run routes. I was running routes with one of my kids yesterday or 2 days ago. He was like, yo, so you still trying to play? I was like, why you say that? He was like, cause you just nice. Like you could still like. I'm only 4 months away from pro day. So I had my pro day, I want to say back in April. So let's say 5. So I'm very fresh. One thing about with Prolific training is where I get the kids better is from my experience. So I have to experience things in order to be able to teach them. So one thing about me, the route running will never ever leave me. The going out there and putting the work in will never ever leave me because I don't do this I don't play the game. I never play the game for the reward. I fell in love with the process. So the process is what still fuels me. So, my dad, had some heart issues recently. Was diagnosed with high blood pressure around, I want to say 5 years ago, has had high blood pressure for the last 5 years. He started training with me about, let's say a month ago. He went to the doctors. After 5 years, he finally has normal blood pressure. But for me to pick up and be like, yo, you trying to come work out is nothing because that's just what I love to do. Now I just need somebody that's going to be like, come motivate me because when you get to the top, it gets lonely. Right. So, yes, I'm still working out, still training, but it's very lonely. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I can't say that I'm going to the field. And my going to the field is being with the kids and learning from the experience. But when my boy gets home and finished from a season, I will still be, training. But I can't really give you an answer if I'm still playing. I would say I'm not looking for it.
Okay.
I'm not out here searching for it.
The attention's on prolific.
Yeah, attention's on prolific, 100%.
Where's the facility out of?
So the thing is with prolific, there is no exact facility, but we do train in Sayreville, New Jersey, at that blue field, 60 Dolan Street. So we train there. The facility is coming though, but the good thing is about football, and when it comes to the training that I do, it has nothing to do with necessarily the speed or the lifting. It has everything to do with how you get in and out of cuts, and you need a field to do that. It's the movement, route running, route running. So we're right in Sayreville getting things done, whether it's rain, snow, or sleet. We out there in that cold grinding.
It's not far from where we're recording right now.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, it's right down the road.
So we asked a lot of our guests this question. If you can give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a great one. I would say one thing about me, I lived the life that I wanted to live, and I did everything exactly how I did. So I'm still discovering what could I have told my younger self, because I don't look back and be like I regret anything, because I really had to exhaust everything to my career being a undersized guy, So I do think about that time, like, man, I'm trying to make up something like, what would I tell myself? What would I tell me? But I think I've done everything exactly how I want to do. When it came to me being 14, 15 years old, I really started making decisions on my own. I would say instead of telling my younger self something, I would say, man, I wish I could have that playback. But I don't really wish, because I really left it all out on the field from 14 up. Maybe my 11-year-old self, maybe I wish I wouldn't been able to explain to myself what leaving it all out on the field means. Because you'll have a lot of adults that say it, hey, leave it all out on the field. But what does that mean? I was always scratching my head like, what do you mean by that?
It's just a phrase.
It's just a phrase. But if you meant exhaust everything that you have because you want all of what your potential is to be left out on that field, don't leave this field with any regret of saying, man, I could have did this, I could have did that. So I wish somebody would have probably broke it down to me. Or I wish I could have broke that down to myself when I was younger.
Another question that we like to ask our guests as well is what's the advice? You're very recently removed from your playing days, so you can certainly speak to the grind that you went through. What's the advice you're giving? What advice are you giving your own athletes that you're training, who are in high school looking to go to the next level?
Definitely the biggest phrase is stay ready so you don't got to get ready. So when your number is called, you better be ready. You better be ready for your moment, because you may only get one. And I'm sorry, yeah, you may be like, but so-and-so keep messing up. But so-and-so just probably is a little bit more blessed than you.
Right.
So-and-so probably just a little bit more gifted. So-and-so is probably there at the right place in the right time. So when so-and-so doesn't show up and I'm looking for that guy with the potential that I think he could really make it to show up, you better be ready when your number's called. So the biggest thing is stay ready so you don't got to get ready. Go in unknown, be unforgettable. And then what's another thing that never get too high, never get too low. You always want to stay a flat line, because that controls your attitude and your effort. When you're high, the world always has a way of bringing you down. I know what it's like to be an All-American, and then the following year not even to be an All-Conference player, and not getting too low, just understanding who you are. So I would say those are the biggest things. But staying ready so you don't got to get ready. You don't got to wait on nobody. You could just do things on your own time, and the only person that's gonna make your life move is you, because you're the captain of your ship.
Final question, prolific. What's the vision for it? Where would you like to see it in the next, say, 1, 3, 5 years?
5 years, definitely the biggest in the world, and just adding, just sitting back and just adding. Because my 5-year vision is really more like a 5-month vision. I want to have a nice indoor facility where I don't got to chase down these indoors and pay all these crazy, extraordinary fees for these indoors. Last year, the 7-on-7 team was ranked number 14 team in the nation for 18U. That's very hard to do when there's over 50,000 7-on-7 teams out there for the 18U bracket. So that was pretty special in our second year. And then the younger teams were good too, but that 18U team, that was pretty special. It's on paper. And just continue to capitalize on that. So I want people to walk in, you seeing prolific, and you got a Jumbotron there, you from my camps. And for the 7-on-7 team, you got kids that's flying up from Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, just to play for prolific for, a tournament. Or even when it comes to training, I just want to be notified as one of the best in the world. I know they have me as like a top 40 influencer, football influencer in the world right now. But I know it could go bigger than that. And I just want people to be able to buy into the extraordinary stuff. So like all the stuff that you may teach, they may be like, well, who's this dude teaching it? Oh, that ain't going to work. This ain't going to work. but you may see AJ Brown do it, you be like, oh yeah, I knew that was gonna work. So it's like, I can't wait to get to that status where it's like, when Jacari says something, we listen. And it's not just to have no control factor,
right.
but it's like, I didn't put on that NFL helmet, but that doesn't mean my skill set doesn't belong in the league right now on a third down. So if I could get people to be like, really understand what I'm putting out, then that's when I'll be like, all right, I know prolific is exactly where it needs to be at.
Mm-hmm.
Where can people reach you?
Social media.
Yep.
Social media. I'll say social media is definitely difficult. I'm not even gonna lie. My girlfriend, every night she like, you gotta turn your phone on, do not disturb, because there's a lot of hate that comes with it.
Right.
So on my social media, I can show you my phone right now. I will wait. If I show you my phone, there will probably be at least 10 hate comments there.
That means you're doing something right.
Doing something right. But it'll blind you from the other comments that be like, yo, Jacari, great work.
Right.
Or your DMs may be flooded and whatnot. So I'll say social media is a big one. Like, I definitely try to do a good job at responding. I'm not the best, but I'll do a good job. But definitely any of the social media pages, because I have Prolific Performance, the trainer at Prolific 77, and I have the Prolific Pulse as my tackle. Then I have my main page. My main page is not like really booming like that. It has good following, but it's not like my DMs are flooded.
Right.
But I also have my DMs off, so that way anybody can't just reach me. So I'll say if anybody gets my number, they could call me. But not a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, can get in touch with me respectfully, you know, so.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we had a mutual contact
Yes,
to
100%.
put us together, because
yep.
I don't want to speak for my co-host, but this was an entertaining episode.
Yes.
And I think most importantly, I truly appreciated your honesty.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would have danced around some of the comments about school and stuff, and I really respect that you basically just said it the way it needed to be said.
Yeah, it's true. That makes you what you are. You know, it makes you what you are. If I was sitting up here, so if I said, oh, I put school first, now I wouldn't be where I'm at. So
Right.
like I truly put my business first. Now I'm where I'm at. And people that may have said, oh, you should, you know, back then, well, now look.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah, 100%.
they ain't gonna believe till it's time to believe.
Jacari, we thank you again for taking
thank
time
you,
out of your day to be a part of our day.
No, thank you for having me.
For telling your story. We're definitely going to talk off air.
Yes, let's do it.
And continue this conversation, because I would like to learn more about what you're doing. And with that being said, that is a wrap on episode 38 of Destination Talk. Until we meet you again.
Thank you.